All right, today we're in Rouen, and this is the cathedral.
Ceremony. And then what? You got it right now?
I'm walking out and I see a whole bunch of these.
He's got a white or he's got like I didn't tell you anything. I was waiting for you. Do you want to gather 2 minutes here? You want to gather around just for 2 minutes? We got umbrellas. That we need to split up at night. During the summer. Yes, I will tell you. Okay. Have you seen Notre-Dame de Paris? Have you seen Notre-Dame while in Paris? Not yet? Some of you yes. Is it different, this one?
Not a whole lot different.
No, not too much, because that's a Gothic cathedral. That's a Gothic cathedral, but it's late Gothic, so it's flamboyant Gothic. And flamboyant Gothic means that you have lots of details.
Yeah.
If you look here, you have plenty details in the sculptures. If you look at the rose, you see the rose in the background?
Yes.
You have the feeling that the sculpture look like flames. That's one of the reason why we call it Gothic flamboyant. Although if you look at that tower, it doesn't look as much detail as the other one, just because this one was built earlier. This one was built in the 12th century, this one was built in the 14th century. So they are different because not the same style. This one over there is called the Tour Romain, and it's about 71 meters, and the other one is called, it has a funny name, the Butter Tower. So why is it called the Butter Tower? Because they put a tax. Everybody who wanted to eat butter during Lent, they were taxed for that. Because that was something they were not supposed to do. So thanks to the money collected, they erected that beautiful tower. So it's like in all Gothic churches, it's always the same system. They have 3 doors way to enter. Each doorway tells you about the Bible, because that was the only way for the people to get to know the Bible, to look at the entrances of the church. Are we missing somebody? We're missing a couple.
My husband is trying to find a bank.
Ah, yeah, you're right. You told me. No, I told him to go to the change place. No, I told him. So yes, we always tell you the history of the Bible. Here, it's not as usually it is. Usually it is like in Notre Dame, you see the Last Judgment in the middle, then one portal dedicated to Mary, another one dedicated to Jesus. This one is more related to general events in the Bible, like the one in the middle. You can see the Jesse tree. You know what the Jesse tree is? That's all the ancestor of Jesus. So if you look at the bottom, you see like a tree going from the side of. You see the Jesse tree in lots of stained glasses. Of course, stained glasses is something typical of the Gothic. Why did they build Gothic? But I shouldn't tell that anyway. They built Gothic just because at one point in the 12th century, cities were getting more important. They wanted to build higher. I mean, the 11th century, they wanted to build higher, be closer to God, but they need to find a new system to do that. So they found the cross vaulting inside the church, so you will see that. And for the higher elevation, they found the flying buttresses. You saw them on the side, the flying buttresses, like big arms pushing the weight inside, allowing a higher structure and more opening as well. Like that, you had stained glasses. We can walk around. Do you think the husband you realize that we are inside? He went to the chest of the
wife is wondering where you are, but she's in.
You're okay. Main shopping street, Rouen.
Styling from Paris is the thing. Oh, sure.
16th century, but look at the picture and you will see how damaged it was during the war. In fact, they really rebuilt it sort of, but they're trying to use the same type of stone and really respect the... And you see that's the same thing, because it dated from so late, you have all those little details that you won't find on buildings built earlier. So that's the city, the court hall. Yeah, for the people who just arrived, this is the court.
This is the Church of Joan of Arc.
You all were wondering, where is it? Just here, and you have a statue of Notre Dame. You have a statue of Joan of Arc in the little corner that you will see after. The square is named after her, so she was burned on that spot. But I remind you, she was burned because of a French guy, l'évêque Cochon, Bishop Cochon, the Bishop Pig. He was Cochon Pig. It doesn't spell the same way, but it is the same.
This is where she was burned?
She was burned here, yes. They erected a column after just to put the spot, but she was burned here. And you have a statue of Joan of Arc on the other side. You can look at it after. And that church is named after her. As soon as I finish, to speak, go inside, because that's an amazing church inside. Sometimes they close it for lunch. That's the reason why I'm telling you this. When did they burn her?
Why did they burn her?
Oh, why? Oh, yes, she was accused of being a witch. A witch?
Yeah.
Yes, just because, you know, she had voices, she has extremely strong power, she fight the English, and she was a woman, and we didn't know if she was a woman or a man. It was very controversial, and did something against her. I forgot she was around 20 something. Yeah, but I
want to say
exact-
21, but I'm not
Yeah,
sure.
and me 20. Me too. I couldn't remember the exact age. It was important to know, but I remember.
And tell Shira about the man again who was responsible for her burning. The
Yeah, Cochon, he was the bishop. He was on the side of the English, so the English sort of like asked him to judge Joan of Arc the way they wanted her to be judged.
Yeah.
So first the sentence was not too bad. She was supposed to be in jail. But then in fact, the English thought it was not strong enough. So they asked the judge to do another trial. And then the sentence was to be burned on the public spot, 1431. If I remember well. So the church.
Okay, this is the place where Joan of Arc was burned. This is the monument that was put up.
Você vai ficar lá? Essa aí. Ah, essa eu vou mandar.
This is a old mansion from the 16th century that's been turned into a hotel now. This is Rommel's headquarters in France, where he ran the German operations from.
Four now.
It's the Church of Nantes.
Of Mantes-la-Jolie? Nantes, no, we're very far from Nantes.
Oh.
No, we're very, very far from Nantes. But you know, I don't know what is that church at all. We never came that way and I don't know. So what are you going to do?
Look at different tours and see which one I'm going to take.
Okay. You know, like tours like
De
low, that building shouldn't be higher. Look, they're doing water skating on the Seine River. It's nice. It's forbidden to swim in the Seine River, but you can do water sports. So yes, La Défense is where we have all the skyscrapers in Paris. I mean, we have some skyscrapers in other locations in the surrounding of Paris, but this is the largest one. Lots of modern buildings, concentration of modern buildings, most of them offices, but we have people living in La Défense as well. And in the middle of La Défense, we have the big arch that you see better when you are in front of the Arc of Triumph. So you will see better the big arch later on. And you're lucky because you're seeing the Arc of Triumph with the French flag, and I think the Arc of Triumph with the French flag is always beautiful. We don't have it all the time. We just put it when we have some special guests or when we have some special days, like 11th of November, 14th of July. We are on one of the most expensive avenue in Paris. It's Avenue Foch, extremely luxurious apartment all around. And straight ahead, the Arc of Triumph. So the Arc of Triumph, it was built by Napoleon I. He wanted the tallest arch to be built for his army. The tallest arch in Europe, Roman style, and he achieved to do so. He didn't see it finished because the arch was not finished when he died. But after his death, when they brought back the body of Napoleon, they did a big procession, and the coffin of Napoleon went under the Arc of Triumph. So from here you can see some people on the top, because you can go to the top of the Arc of Triumph. There is a big terrace. From that terrace you have a look all around, and from above you can see 12 avenues reaching the center. And because of that, we give a nickname to the spot. We call it L'Étoile, because it looked like a star with 12 branches. So L'Étoile means the star. So Napoleon dedicated that arch to his troops, to the army. So that's the reason why all around you have lots of sculptures depicting the troops going to the battle or battlefield. Same thing inside the arch. You will see when we're turning around, you see many names. There are names of famous soldiers, names of battlefield, places where Napoleon has been. Before we go to the Champs-Élysées, we're going to turn one time around. So we do one time a circle and then we go to the Champs-Élysées.
That's definitely, you're doing some work. Oh, yeah.
Under the arch, and you have some names, because I was telling you about the names, you have some names of famous generals of Napoleon as well. And under the arch, under the flag, you're going to notice a flame. That flame is burning all the time, and this is the flame of the unknown soul. I can't hear. Yeah, explain. Look to the left, because you have Napoleon, you have the most famous sculptures of Napoleon coronated as a Roman emperor. You can see the flame. And on the other side, you have a woman leading the troops to the battle, and that woman is representing our national anthem, La Marseillaise. You know La Marseillaise?
Yes.
Allons enfants de la patrie, le jour de gloire est arrivé. That's the one. So turning around, look to the right, because you will see the front of La Défense. You will see the big arch, and the big arch in La Défense is so tall that it dated from 1936. And the elevator is extremely small, because to start with, they didn't build the elevator, they built it after.
Right.
So Champs-Élysées, so right and left you have many stores, because as I told you, it's really a place where the people are doing shopping. You have plenty of restaurants. If you like cars, you have the most common brand represented. You have the French one, Peugeot, Renault, Citroën, you have Toyota as well. All that on the Champs-Élysées. You have lots of movie theater. To the right coming, you have the beautiful building at the corner of the street over there, the beautiful building of Vuitton. Even if you come back on the Champs-Élysées, even if you don't buy anything at Vuitton, go inside the store, because the store is really amazing. It's an Art Nouveau store. And the other day I went with a group for a special visit and we went to the VIP room, which is totally at the top, and it is the largest window on the Champs-Élysées. Where you can see some red, this is the Vuitton building.
Porsche right there, the Canyon
Just to the right, the
Turbo.
building at the corner. And to the left you have the Lido. I know that some of you are going to the Moulin Rouge tomorrow morning. The Lido is the second most famous cabaret in Paris. You know the Moulin Rouge is where they have the French cancan dancers. So the Lido, second most famous cabaret in town. So Vuitton to the right. On the Champs-Élysées we have two big events happening every year. The arrival of the Tour de France. It's always starting somewhere in Europe nowadays. It doesn't start in France, but somewhere in Europe, and it finishes on the Champs-Élysées. Always 3,500 kilometers all around France. I was speaking macaroons with some of you, saying that La Durée is a great spot to eat macaroons. Here you have one of the three La Durée we have in Paris. It's located to the right, that green store. Best macaroons in town, macaron. But the macaron here are not like the one you have in the States. It's not coconut macaron. It's two bones of pastry filled with cream, different flavor. It's really amazing. And that La Durée is quite nice because on the upper floor, this is the largest one, and on the upper floor you can take your tea and eat your macaron in some little salon dated from Napoleon III. So you have the feeling you're in the 19th century. And at the end of the store, that's the contrary, they have an extremely modern bar, which is very nice, where you can have a drink. To the left, you're going to see the Guerlain store, which is the oldest building on the Champs-Élysées. Guerlain, you know, is the perfume maker and designer as well. So it's just here to the left. And Guerlain, that perfume store, it was the first perfume store opened in Europe. I'm even wondering if it was the first perfume store opened in the world. Just here to the left. And I told you we have two events, but I just mentioned one. The second one is the défilé du 14 juillet. So the 14th of July military parade. Always starts at the Arc de Triomphe and it goes straight to the Concorde Square. So we see all our military troops on the Champs-Élysées. And any French people can come. You just have to come early in the morning and you're just standing behind the gates they put along the Champs-Élysées. And on the Concorde we have seats all around for the official people or the people who are invited. But it's open to anybody. And of course, you know that on the 14th of July, we're celebrating our revolution that happened on the 14th of July, 1789. For the people who were speaking about the up and off bus, this is the one. Do you see it? Open tour. Go straight and turning Concorde. Look to the right, it's quite funny. Do you see the big line? You have the feeling those people are waiting to go to a museum. This is a beautiful building, but this is Abercrombie & Fitch. They're waiting to get a free picture with the top model inside. Look at the building to the right. This is an art auction place, but this is the most beautiful private mansion they have on the Champs-Élysées. And to the right is Avenue Montaigne. It is the street where you have all the fashion designers, such as Chanel, Balenciaga, Dior, etc., etc. We have two streets like that. This one and another one by La Madeleine. Statue of the Général de Gaulle just here, and opposite on the other side, but you can't see it, you have the statue of Churchill. Look to the right, you will have a nice view of the Invalides, and to the left you have the Élysée Palace. So to the right the Invalides, but we will try to come back, and to the left the Élysée Palace, the palace of the French President François Hollande. And he did something very nice. François Hollande, first at the beginning, he didn't want to stay he didn't want to live in that palace. socialist president, you know, he decided to keep his flat south of Paris. Now he lives and works there, but he did something very nice. First Sunday of every month, and that was the gardens of the Élysée to the French people, to the Parisian. So you have to line up, but you can go to the gardens of the Élysée. Élysée is a beautiful palace, and we can visit that palace as any monuments that usually are close to the public every second weekend of September. They do the patrimony days where you can visit all those buildings. Often you have to line up hours, but it's quite interesting. And we're arriving on the Concorde Square with the oldest monuments we have in town, because given by Egypt to France as a gift, coming from the Temple of Luxor. And that obelisk is in the center of the Concorde Square, and facing us, where the trees are, you have the Tuileries Park, and in the background, the building you can see is the Louvre Museum, but we will pass by. So that Concorde Square used to be a royal square, but no more statue of the king in the middle, one of the largest square we have in town. You will see two fountains on each side of the square, and if you've been to Rome, some of you might recognize those fountains, because they are exactly the same one as the one you can find in Rome on St. Peter's Square. Except that the one on St. Peter's Square do not have any statues, and those have statues. We spoke about Monet today. If you look in the park to the right, you have a rectangle building. This is the Orangerie Museum. This is the museum dedicated to paintings in general, but in that museum over there, straight to the right, rectangle building, you have the Water Lily of Monet. Monet, at the end of his life, he painted many series. We saw that going to Rouen, but he painted as well Water Lily. And he painted two paintings of Water Lily that are so huge that they're covering the walls of 2 rooms, and it is located in that museum. Straight, we have the National Assembly, where we have all the deputies, but we might see it again later on. So all the deputies are located in that assembly. Statues of women all around the square, they're representing the main cities of France. And look to the left again. Christian is going to slow down, because you will have a great view of the Champs-Élysées with the Arc of Triumph and with the beautiful flag in the middle of the Arc of Triumph. Look at that, how nice it is to the left. In front of us, to the right, is the Ministry of Navy, and to the left, that building under scaffolding is the Crillon Hotel. This is one of the fancy hotels we have in Paris. It's one of the palaces. And on the side, by the trees, you might recognize your flag, because this is the American Embassy. Great location for your embassy. Although you don't want to come, because that would be a very bad sign for you. That will mean that you've lost your passport. I was saying to some of you today, it is a strange church, because if you were walking around, you wouldn't see any windows. No windows in that church. The whole light comes from a dome that you can't see from here. So it's quite a nice church. I mean, nothing special. It's not worth a special visit, but if you're in the surrounding, you can go inside. Did you see the movie Midnight in Paris from Woody Allen? Yes? So in Midnight in Paris, at some point they go to Maxime's. So Maxime's is located to the left. It used to be a very fancy restaurant in the 30s. Because that was, that still is, it's a restaurant in the Art Nouveau style. Except that nowadays it's not anymore really a restaurant, it's more like a museum dedicated to the Art Nouveau style. Next traffic light to the right and left, the second fashion in the 19th century. Napoleon III, he arrived at the power, and he thought the image of Paris was not nice at all, because Paris looked like in the Middle Ages, narrow street, and it was unhealthy, it was dirty. So he hired an architect called Haussmann and asked him to rebuild Paris. Excuse me, sorry, I won't tell you. To the left, you can see a black and white canopy. This is Fauchon. This is a delicatessen grocery store. It's a really nice place to come. Even if you don't buy anything, just to look around, it's beautiful. So yes, that area was rebuilt by Napoleon and by Haussmann. And when I said rebuilt, basically it destroyed everything in that surrounding. When you see pictures of the time, there's nothing left, and it started over again. And it is the time when they decided that buildings shouldn't be higher than 7 stories, what I told you on the first day. So the architecture, we will see that using the Avenue de l'Opéra in a few minutes, is extremely symmetrical. All the buildings are the same shape, same style. Bastille, in the Bastille, on the Bastille Square, which is dedicated more to the opera singing. And we have Opéra Garnier, the old one that you're going to see in 2 minutes to the left. So Opéra Garnier is usually where we have the ballet. So we're going to turn around the opera. So you turn left where the bus is turning over there. Yeah, and you go in the background. 50 architects replied to that contest. And the one who was chosen was totally unknown. His name was Charles Garnier. That was the first time he was achieving something in Paris. Well, he had done few flats, but nothing else. And you're going to see what he achieved. As I said, for me, it's the nicest monument we have in town. It's huge. I mean, the theater itself at the opera is quite small because it's only 2,100 seats, with a beautiful painted ceiling from Chagall, painted in the 50s, 1950. We used to have an old ceiling, but it was replaced by the Chagall's one. But if the building is huge, it's just because at the time, the people, they were going to the opera to be seen and show themselves. So the whole architecture is done for that purpose. So to the left, it is the opera house. So all the busts you can see in the little circles, they are famous composers of different periods. The initials N and E. N is for Napoleon, E is for Eugenia. Inside you have a big staircase with balconies all around where the people could look at each other. There's as well lots of little salons where the people could go and talk. Above you can see a cupola. That cupola is the theater. Under the cupola you have the theater. And above the cupola you can see a crown representing the power of Napoleon III and Apollo, the god of music and arts. And it's written Académie Nationale de Musique and Dance. You have choreography written to the left, which is dance, because we have a ballet school inside the opera. Well, now they moved outside Paris because it was getting too big. We call them les petits rats de l'opéra, the little rats of the opera, the dancers, just because of the noise they make with the shoes on the wooden floor. They have lots of rehearsal studios in the opera. This area is busy because the Opera District is the shopping area in Paris. It's where we have the main department store. You're going to see them in the back of... You know what? You can jump here. It's really easier. Yeah. Because as we don't have much time, it's really easier. So in the back of the opera, you have the 2 main department store. I don't know if you can... Galerie Lafayette and Printemps. So just over there, to the right, you can see Galerie Lafayette, and then to the left, you would see Le Printemps. You're going to see the Printemps in 2 seconds. So main department store. Not too far from your hotel, you have another department store which is very nice, especially for the grocery store. You have Le Bon Marché. Bon Marché is not too far from the hotel, and it's beautiful inside. I think some of you went there. I know some of you went there. I think it was Don. Don, you've been there. Don and Julie, I think. And on the top of the Galerie Lafayette, you have a terrace. You're going to see that in 2 seconds. You can go to that terrace. It's totally free. And you have a beautiful view on the roof of Paris. was the purpose, because he was freaking out because once he got attacked going to the opera. Not this one, another one. So look at the main gate, I mean the big gate to the left, and then where you have the columns and the eagle. It's not your turn, ladies. Where you have the big column and eagle, it's where you have the special rank for Napoleon III. Although he didn't use it because he meant a little bit less. I mean, that credit card like it a little bit less. Because it's the area where we have all the jewelry stores. So a little bit further after the traffic light to the right, after the Westminster. The street is named Rue de la Paix. This is Rue de la Paix. And after the Westminster Hotel, you have the original Cartier store. If you look all around, you will see Van Cleef and Arpels, you will see Tiffany's, you will see Chaumet. And that street leads us to a square called Place Vendôme. Place Vendôme used to be a royal square built by Louis XIV. That's the reason why we have all those balconies with suns all around, because the sun is the emblem of Louis XIV. But nowadays, no more Louis XIV, but that big column built by Napoleon I, and it's him that you can see on the top. And Napoleon I dedicated that column to his army, and it's quite symbolic because he did it with some cannon taken to the enemy at the Battle of Austerlitz. So he melted together all the cannons to build that big column. So all around the column you can see troops going to the battle. So of course on that square more jewelry store, Boucheron to the left. To the right where the scaffolding is the Ritz Hotel. But the Ritz Hotel is under restoration at the moment. In fact, the main palaces we have, the main fancy hotel we have in Paris are under restoration at the moment. This one, the Ritz Hotel, the Crillon is under restoration, the Plaza Athénée is under restoration. So the Ritz Hotel is very famous and became even more famous because Diana, you remember Diana, the ex-wife of Charles? To go back to, yeah, because you could go here, but it's difficult to turn with the bus and you can be stuck with the traffic. So you have to turn around and you go back to Avenue Opéra. No, I don't want to go in the Louvre. No, I just want to pass in the middle. But you could go that way, but that way you can be stuck in the traffic because the street is very narrow. So it's better to use it. So yes, Diana, she had a last dinner before she died in a car accident. She ate at the Ritz Hotel. And Diana died in a tunnel which is located near the Eiffel Tower. Near the Eiffel Tower. And somebody else famous who used to live in the Ritz Hotel, Coco Chanel, the designer. Coco Chanel, she had a suite in the Ritz Hotel. And next time you go to a perfume store, look at the cap of Chanel No. 5. And you will see that the cap of Chanel No. 5, it's exactly the same shape as the square we just saw. Because Coco Chanel, she said she got inspired by the design of the square to design the cap of Chanel No. 5. Of the opera. So we're going to go down the Avenue de l'Opéra. I told you it's the only avenue in Paris with no trees, and there is a reason behind. Napoleon III, he arrived at the power after a big riot that we have. We have two riots, one in 1830, another one in 1840, when people went down the street fighting, putting barricades. It's very easy to do barricades in a narrow street, impossible to do on a large avenue. So Napoleon wanted to avoid any riots, so large avenue. and no trees, because he didn't want his eyes to be disturbed by the trees when he was coming from the Louvre to the opera. And the Louvre is just straight. Yeah, Napoleon III wishes. Very large ego too. Not as large as Napoleon I, but quite large. Under the roof. Do you see it?
Yep.
Okay, so this is called Chambre de Bonne, maid's room, because in the 19th century, all the people, they were living on different floors according to the rank in the society. So if they were rich, they were living on the first or second floor, and the poorest they were, the highest they were. So all the people living under the roof, they were often the maids of the rich family, and they were living in very, very, very small rooms, and those rooms still exist. No, not anymore for the men, although sometimes it is the case. But people live there, but it's very small. Often you have the bathroom outside, but they're just typical of the Parisian architecture of the time. What people do nowadays, they try to buy several chambres de bonne to create a big flat, a big Parisian flat. Behind the trees to the left, you have La Comédie Française, which is the oldest theater we have in town. This is where Molière, the playwright of Louis XIV, used to perform.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, you
Okay.
won't fit on the one on the right.
Close your eyes.
The right it fits, the extreme right, no. No. Yeah. Ah, sorry. Yeah, yeah. But if you use the one to the left, it's better.
That's why you say yes, if it came from that, it's very difficult.
Yeah. No, it's in fact, it's that by the Louvre. So this is the palace of the Louvre. I said palace because originally that was the palace of the French king. Nowadays it is the largest museum in the world, but everything started as a fortified castle in the 13th century. Year 1200, Philippe Auguste built a fortified castle to defend the city. You still can see the remains of the fortification. So if you go to the Louvre tomorrow, go start with the Sully wing, because the Sully wing is where you have all the remains of the fortified castle. So you're walking in the moat and you can see all the towers, the fortified bridge, the drawbridge.
That's the Louvre.
So you see the Louvre as a U shape with several courtyards. In the main courtyard we have the glass pyramid. Glass pyramid built for the bicentennial of the revolution, built by Pei, a Chinese-American architect, extremely controversial at the time. People didn't like it too much.
Better than what he did in Boston.
They were fighting, demonstrating, yelling at Pei.
It's an eyesore.
But it's much nicer than what we have in the past. In the past, that was a parking lot with a fountain. That was not nice. And at least we're a city of contrast in architecture. Walk slowly and drive slowly. Look to the right through the arch. This is the arch of the carousel built by Napoleon I. He stole the statue you have on the top, but he had to give it back to Italy in Venice. So this is a copy. So Christian is going to walk a little bit further and you will have a beautiful view. Look at the perspective you have. From here, from the Louvre, you can go through the Tuileries Park, you can see the Concorde Square where we are, then after you can see the Arc of Triumph, then after you can see the Arch of La Défense, and if you would continue in that perspective, you will arrive in Versailles. That was the purpose of Louis XIV. He wanted to have one big axis between the Louvre and Versailles. Thank you.
Then you have the gate to that.
And this is where we might have
That's what I say. You gotta blow through it. Touch it.
Have you been in it, Bill?
I was here when I was here in 1965.
to use that one. To the left. To the
Like
left.
that?
Not the right one. To the left. To the left. To the left. To the left.
You want to go where?
What?
What
Famous
I want to go to the left.
To the left.
Yes. But if you were using the bank of the intellectual, because we have the university over there. Look to the right, you have the beautiful dome of the Institut de France, where we have 5 different academies. The most well-known one being the French Academy, where we have men and women elected for the rest of their life, working on the French dictionary and the entrance of the word in the dictionary. Look at the bridge, because of course that bridge nowadays is known all around the world. Although I wish it would be not the case. It is called the Pont des Arts, but now we call it the Love Bridge because it's full of locks. Do you know why it's full of locks? No, because it comes from a tradition coming from a book. There is an Italian author, he wrote a book, and in that book, that was a book for teenagers. In the book, two teenagers, they go on the bridge in Rome, they attach two locks on the bridge with their name on. Oh la la, I have the look of Christian being Italian, you look at me saying, okay, is she going to tell the right story? So they put a lock on the bridge in Rome, they attach a lock on it with their name on, and they throw the key in the water as a sign of eternal love. Isn't that romantic? The only problem is, the bridge is falling down. So it's not good at all. And in Rome, they have the same problem. The bridges are covered with locks, everywhere in Europe, in fact, because that happened in Prague as well. But in Rome, they've been more serious than us. In Rome, you have a fee. If you put a lock on a bridge, I think it's 50 euros, 45 euros.
Before this is just small fee for it.
Yeah.
And then
Never heard of that one before.
Yeah. So in Paris, they don't want to do that because guess what? The Paris is the straight. Yeah, it's further. Because Paris has a reputation of being a romantic city, so they don't want the people to be stopped. You see those green boxes? They're called bouquinistes. Bouquiniste comes from the word bouquin. Bouquin in French slang means book. So they are selling old books and postcards. We have about 900 of those boxes all around Paris. They are situated only along the quay. They open at the end of the morning and they close when the sun goes down because they don't have any electricity. In the middle of the Seine, we have an island called the City Island. This is the island where we have Notre Dame. Soon we will see Notre Dame. But this place to the right that looks like a castle used to be the castle of the French king before they built the Louvre. So from the 10th century to the 13th century, this was the castle of the French king. Now it is what we call la conciergerie. It is where we have the jail of Marie Antoinette. Marie Antoinette, she was kept in jail in that conciergerie. And you can see a spire in the middle of it. This is the spire of La Sainte-Chapelle. Sainte-Chapelle is the finest Gothic example. So it's not this bridge, it's the following. Yeah, when I said following, I was getting confused. It's not this one, it's the next one. Yeah, the one with the iron. So the Sainte-Chapelle was built by Saint Louis in the 12th century, was coming back from crusade with some relics of Jesus, the piece of the spine crown. He wanted a place to put it, so he built the Sainte-Chapelle. And why is it so nice? I know some of you went there. Just because you have the feeling you have no walls. I mean, it's not a feeling. All the walls have been replaced by stained glasses. So all the way you look at, you have stained glasses everywhere. So it's beautiful. And something I didn't mention today when we were in Rouen, the Cathedral of Rouen, in the Middle Ages, all those cathedrals from the outside, and I should have mentioned in Rouen because on certain parts you can still see the colors. They were colorful, they were painted inside outside. That's the reason why one of you asked me in Rouen, what is that color, sound and light thing? It's because every year in Rouen, they illuminate the facade of the cathedral, and they do that in other places. So to be right on that bridge, just here on that bridge to the right. To recreate the colors the church used to have in the Middle Ages. If you look to the left, in that little street, you will see a big tower. That big tower is the St. John Tower. which is the stopping point in Paris where you're doing the pilgrimage of Saint John of Compostela. You know, we have a big pilgrimage in France going 3 different roads. I mean, it's in Europe. 3 different roads in France. And when you do that pilgrimage, so the pilgrimage you're supposed to do it walking or bicycling, and you're supposed to reach Galicia, Santiago of Compostela in Spain. And when you do it in Paris, you have to stop at the St. John Tower. There was a movie about it, The Way, American movie, yes? Ah, no, she didn't know. Oh, this is nice. Well, one of you, David, was just telling me his daughter has done that pilgrimage. I've done it a little bit because you can choose to do little parts once in a while. I mean, normally you're supposed to do it in one time only, but sometimes you can do it. 6 weeks, yes, I'm not surprised because it's quite long to do it. My sister did it, but in several times. She did a little bit every year. So for her it was not 6 weeks, it was 6 years. So now we're going on the City Island. Look to the left behind the City Island. You have the St. Louis Island, beautiful island to walk around. And here, very new, you're the first one, tourists in a bus to hear it today. That square here has been remained this morning because the Queen Elizabeth came, and now it is called Marché aux Fleurs Reine Elisabeth. This is a new name. This morning we couldn't have access to this area. You know what? Time is running. We're not going to go up to the Panthéon because it's going to be too much.
Otherwise, if it's stuck in the traffic.
Yeah, exactly. So we're just going to turn right after on the quay. At the end of that street on the quay to the right. Like that we'll follow the quay back to
British and French flags would fly next to
back to the Invalides and then hotel, because otherwise it's
because Elizabeth
to the left. You're going to see the entrance of Notre Dame Cathedral. So Notre Dame Cathedral, same system as this morning. You have 3 main doors telling you about the Bible. Then the main rose in the middle. You have 2 other roses on each side. 2 big towers, bell towers, built at the end of the 12th century to the 14th century. Then it became a very important pilgrimage place dedicated to the Virgin Mary. Then after the revolution it was quite abandoned. People didn't want to really use it anymore. And it's Victor Hugo who brought it back to fashion, sort of, because he wrote the book Notre Dame de Paris. Everybody loved the book. People realized they had a great church in the middle of town, so they gathered some money, they hired an architect to restore the church. So the church you see nowadays is the restored church. Most of it is original with some restoration of Viollet-le-Duc. And to the side you will see, after we pass those 3 main doors, you will see the flying buttresses, the big flying buttresses. Straight ahead, where you can see the big tower with the green dome, it is what we call La Sorbonne. La Sorbonne is the main university in Paris. La Sorbonne was built by Robert de Sorbonne in the 13th century, and since then it has been the main university in Paris. But all the buildings of the university are spread out all around town. It's not like in your country you do not have any campus. Look to the left because you have a marvelous example of an open-air staircase as it used to be in the Middle Ages. Look at that, because the whole area we're facing, the area we're facing to the right and left, you see the architecture is very different than the one you saw in the
than the one you saw in the opera, because this area has not been touched by Napoleon
Not as cold
III.
as where I grew up in New
So
York
it is
City.
exactly as it was in the Middle Ages. And we call that whole area that you're facing to the right and to the left, we call it Latin Quarter because of the university. Students were speaking Latin at the university. So Latin Quarter or Saint Michael area. Saint Michael, because in 2 seconds you're going to see a huge statue of Saint Michael fighting the dragon. And you're going to see the narrowest street of Paris. Turning right, look to the left, there is a souvenir shop with a red canopy. Just at the corner of that store, there is the narrowest street of Paris. Which has a funny name, it is called the Street of the Cat Who is Fishing. Yeah, because the water, the sand water used to come as far as the street. And you will see it's extremely narrow. I'll go for it, otherwise it's narrow. So just here to the left, look at the street, how narrow it is. It's very narrow, huh? One man can go,
There it is. That's
not two. And to the left, you're going to see the big statue of Saint Michael fighting the dragon, reason why we call the area Saint Michael. Plenty restaurants all around that area. It's not too far from your hotel. It's a direct line from your hotel if you take the line 4 from Gare Montparnasse. It's a little bit touristic, but that's a nice area to stroll around. Latin Quarter. And you have the main avenue of the Latin Quarter called Boulevard Saint-Michel, and at the top of Boulevard Saint-Michel to the right they have the Luxembourg Park. This is something you might enjoy tomorrow as well, because same thing, it's very close from your hotel. It's even a walking distance. I mean, that will take you maybe 30-40 minutes to walk from your hotel, but it's a beautiful park we have in town. That's the most nicest one, because in the Luxembourg we have a castle. We can't visit it because that castle is the headquarters of the Senate, but it's a very charming place to stroll around, the Luxembourg Park.
kind of like a magnet.
Now you can see the bridge, the old new bridge, but from the other side. And I told you we give nicknames to the bank, but I don't think I told you the nicknames. If you speak French, we're saying for the people who speak French, sur la rive droite on dépense, sur la rive gauche on pense. On the right bank we're spending money, and on the left bank we're thinking. Because on that left bank they have the Sorbonne University that you saw, and they have the Saint-Germain-des-Prés area as well that we haven't seen. Saint-Germain-des-Prés is not, oh look, this is a wedding. They used an old bus. You see the bus to the right? This is an old Parisian bus, and a wedding party rented it. It's nice. So what was I telling? Oh yeah, I was telling you that this is a nice restaurant over there to the left, Les Bouquinistes. Yeah, I was telling you that Saint-Germain-des-Prés is quite a nice area to go to, and it's located not too far from your hotel. And they have nice restaurants as well all around.
This is nice. I want to do that if I get married.
Oh, what is the bride? What is the bride?
Although you cannot be lots of people.
So all buses used to be like that in Paris at the beginning of the 20th. Even later, because I remember as a child seeing some of those buses. I mean, not the same one, a little bit older, but with the open air thing in the back. We don't have any more buses open in the back like that. But when I was a child, we had some. So now you can see much better the very big facade of the Louvre. You can appreciate it because this is the start of it, and you're going to see as far as it goes. You're going to see the Block Bridge again, but from the left bank, and you're going to see to the left the the Institut de France, the French Academy again.
We can find on a good space like that. We can manage maybe to be. Let's see. So that's good.
Locks. Still the locks in there.
Yeah, the locks again. So you know when you go to the Louvre, it's because you want to see pieces of art from prehistorical time up to the 19th century. If you want to see anything after that, mid-19th century, 20th century, you go to another museum called Orsay that we're going to see a little bit further. Orsay is a very nice museum to visit. If you want tomorrow to visit Orsay or the Louvre, you have to come first thing in the morning. Otherwise, you will line up, especially at Orsay. Orsay is even worse than the Louvre. House in Paris. Now you go the Néroust Street in Paris. Now you're going to see the Néroust house. This is the number 13, the blue door just now to the left. Here you go, just here, blue door. I'm sure you've noticed all those bicycles everywhere. You can't run them. I mean, as a tourist, you put €1 in the machine. They ask you for to put your credit card just to be safe, but they don't take any money on it. But just in case, you take the bicycle, and you can run all day long with it. The only thing is, you have to put it back on a spot every half an hour. But they have spots all around the town, every 300 meters. Although it's dangerous to ride a bicycle in Paris if you're not used to it. Look to the left, this is the Orsay Museum, the museum I was mentioning with all the paintings from 19th, 20th century. It looked like a train station from the outside because it used to be a train station. That's the reason why you have all the names of the cities, Paris, Bordeaux, Toulouse, and the two big clocks. And you have one floor totally dedicated to the Impressionists. Do you have the address of the hotel?
Yeah.
Okay, is it entered in your thing?
Yes.
Thank you so much. Because after I know how to get it from Hammerly, but I don't know. I think all the trains came back here. Because that's right, we didn't speak at all about the concentration camp, all the Jewish. In Paris, we had a very bad event. I mean, we have, of course, Jewish extermination and Jewish sent in jail and then concentration camp and so on. But the most famous one was in 1942, La Ralph du Veldiv. And I'm sure you heard about it because there was a famous book written in the States. Sarah was her name or something like that? No, it's Sarah. Or name Sarah, or I forgot. Anyway, that speaks about it. That was called La Ralph du Veldiv. Thousands of Jewish were taken all around Paris in only one night. They took all the Jewish, they put them in the Veldiv. That was a big sort of, not stadium, but a big room where they were riding bicycle. And they put all the Jewish there. They stayed for several days without drinking, eating, and so on. And then they sent them to concentration camp. So it was La Ralph du Veldiv. To the left, you have a building that should remind you one of your building. Everybody, there is nobody at Orsay. This is very strange, because normally you see huge line. Strange.
I think it closes.
What time is it?
5:30.
Well, no, they close at 6. Oh, but you're right, yes, of course, because at 6, so it's 5:30, nobody's going to enter. Yes, of course. What am I thinking of? So to the left, yes, that building, does that remind you something? Look at it. A very famous building in Washington.
Executive office building.
White House.
What?
Yeah, it looks like the White House. That's the Musée of la Légion d'honneur. La Légion d'honneur is the highest distinction you can have in France given by the president if you achieve something extraordinary. What is it in the States? the one equivalent. What do you get
What?
if you done something extraordinary?
Congressional Gold Medal.
Gold medal?
Is one of them.
Okay.
Congress
Without being a
issues it.
military?
No, it's not necessarily military. It's
Okay, and if you're a military, what it is?
Medal of Honor.
Medal of Honor, okay. La Légion d'honneur, often it's given to military, but you can get it as well as a civil if if you have accomplished something very nice. Like some resistance got it. Okay, traffic. We didn't expect it, traffic, but here we go. We're not too far from the hotel, so hopefully by 6 we'll be at the hotel. And a man that you know to the right, Jefferson. And that bridge leads you to the Tuileries Garden, the park that we saw earlier, Tuileries Park.
The garden. I was trying to think of the name of the gardens.
That was Tuileries Park to the right.
I saw it.
And the bridge, not this one, but the one we have straight where the buses are. This is the Concorde Bridge, and this bridge is symbolic as well because it was built with stone taken at the Bastille. So when they destroyed the Bastille, you know the Bastille was a jail. The jail was taken on the 14th of July 1789. Then they took some of the stone to build the bridge over there. And that bridge leads you to the Concorde Square where we were earlier.
Thomas Jefferson.
Just passed our third president. Thomas Jefferson.
Yeah, I just said it.
11 million Paris and surrounding. And Paris comes from Paris-Zi, first Celtic tribe that settled down in town. As you've done a tour related to the war, there is an area in
Normally we can't do it, it's forbidden. But if you really want to do it, like at the end of the sightseeing, whatever, you can do it or don't.
If you haven't done the sand cruise, I know Joe and Joyce will do it tomorrow night. The others, you can do it because it's really the nicest way to see Paris. It's very, very nice from the Seine. And you have several companies. You have one by the Eiffel Tower, you have another one. If I would have known, but I didn't realize, I could have helped you out tomorrow, but I'm working. I'm going to Paris and Versailles. Same thing Sunday. Oh, Sunday, that's tomorrow. And Monday I'm going to Paris. So National Assembly to the left, and we can attend the session. They're meeting every Wednesday, well, several times per week, but on Wednesday is the official meeting. And French people can attend those meetings upon request. So you can see them fighting. They had big fight this year. I mean, no, in 2013 because of the wedding for the homosexual. It was very controversial, but nowadays it has been accepted. For a vote for, how do you say? For a law to be voted, we need the agreement of the National Assembly here and the Senate. National Assembly, we have deputies elected by us, French people, while in the Senate, we have the senators elected by, let's say, big electors to make it easy.
By what?
Big electors. They're not like elected by us French people. We elected some people who elected them, sort of like your big electors in the States. To the right, you have a lovely bridge called Alexander III Bridge. So we'll go to the left. We'll go to the left to the Invalides.
Yes, the Invalides.
Alexander III Bridge is the bridge dedicated to the Tsar of Russia, built for the World Fair, beginning of the 20th century. And you see it's very special because you have only one big arch spanning the river. Normally you have several arches in stone. Here you have one big arch in iron. It was very new at the time to use iron on a bridge. Something quite common nowadays, but at the time it was not. And beautiful view of the Grand Palais. And same thing, if you've seen the movie Midnight in Paris, the last scene, the movie finishes on that bridge. It's one of the most romantic bridges in town, especially at night with the lights. We're not too far from your hotel because we're going to see the Invalides that you can see to the left, and you can see the Montparnasse Tower in the background a little bit to the left. So we're about 15 minutes drive from your hotel, if no traffic. So les Invalides that you can see, lots of you have been there or you want to come here. You know it is the Museum of the Army. But to start, this was sort of a retirement hospital for the soldiers of Louis XIV. Louis XIV had a really big army, and when the soldiers, they were retiring or they were sick, they didn't have any place to go to and they didn't have lots of money. So Louis XIV, he had the idea to build a spot for them, and that's the one you see in front of you. It's a huge place because you see the facade, but behind the facade there is a huge courtyard leading you to the chapel of the building. The chapel is covered by a white, gold dome. The chapel has been split in two. One part is a chapel where you can go to mass. If some of you want to go to mass tomorrow, it's open to anybody. But I forgot, I think, no, I don't forget. The mass is at 10. 10 or 11, no, it's 10. Or maybe 11, no, because I've been there once. Maybe it's 11, the mass. Anyway, that's something we can check at the hotel. And then the second part of the church is the tomb of Napoleon. We still use the courtyard. The French president, or like any military having special celebration, they can do it in the courtyard of Les Invalides. If you look at the facade, look under the roof. On the roof you have some oval windows covered with helmets, just to remind us that it was a military building. Even the bushes in the park, they are cut in the shape of the bullets. So we're going over there, to the left and then right. And you have lots of cannon taken to the enemy. On each side of the gate you have the sun, because it's Louis XIV who built that spot, and he was the Sun King. And you can see Louis XIV on the top of the ground, on the door. At the time of Louis XIV, 5,000 soldiers were living in that building. You can imagine how big it is. And nowadays, as I said, it is the Museum of the Army. Very interesting museum. And they have one part totally dedicated to World War II or World War I.
What year would that have been
What year? What do you mean?
for Louis XIV when he opened that?
It was at the end of the 17th century, so it was like in
16 something.
1680. I forgot the date when they opened it, but it would have been around those dates. And on the cupola.
Oh, I caught that lightning bolt just on the camera here.